before it became the entertainment capital of the world, before the sprawling subdivisions and millions of yearly visitors, before the grand casinos, flashy neon lights, and ringing slot machines, Las Vegas was little more than a small creek in the dry Mojave Desert. From this trickling of water would flow the hopes and dreams of many to come. A diverse cast of people, indigenous groups, Mexican traders, missionaries, and ranchers, all drawn by the creek, would battle against the harsh environment to carve out their place here. The old Las Vegas Mormon Fort State Historic Park preserves their stories at the birthplace of Las Vegas and commemorates the determination and perseverance that helped transform a small desert oasis into a city of global appeal. Las Vegas is a Spanish word meaning the meadows. A short distance to the west of here, water bubbled up from 3 springs and came together to form the Las Vegas Creek. This creek breathed life into the bordering areas and served as the primary source of water in the Las Vegas Valley. Mesquite, cottonwood, and willow trees all flourished along this thin ribbon of greenery. Lush strands of cattails and abundant grasses stood in stark contrast to the dry surrounding desert. This small oasis provided the foundation for everything to come. Without water, humans never would have been able to survive in the unforgiving environment of the Las Vegas Valley. The old Las Vegas Mormon Fort State Historic Park sits on the traditional homeland of the Southern Paiutes. Since time immemorial, indigenous people have thrived in what is today the Las Vegas Valley. While seemingly barren to later visitors, native groups saw the desert as productive and plentiful. They lived in small camps with a few families hunting and gathering around a productive site. Their lifestyle was seasonal and nomadic, and closely followed the growth of more than 100 different plants. Rice grass ripened in April, while mesquite pods fell mid-summer, and activity was constantly shifting to the next food source. It's estimated that a few hundred people lived in the valley at one time, and they all would have utilized the small creek and wealth of plants and animals it supported. Life was diverse, complex, and highly adapted to the demands of the environment. It would change dramatically, though, with the arrival of Euro-American people to this area. In the winter of 1829 through 1830, Mexican trader Antonio Armijo gathered a caravan of 60 men and 100 pack mules near Santa Fe, New Mexico, and blazed a trail to Los Angeles. His trek opened a direct trade route between the 2 outposts on the Mexican frontier and was the first known non-native visit to the Las Vegas Valley. Yearly caravans would soon follow, and this route became known as the Old Spanish Trail. Las Vegas was an essential resting point for travelers along this path. Animals and humans alike found relief from hard desert travel in the meadows along the Las Vegas Creek.
We camped on a narrow stream of deliciously cool water. The campground is called by the Mexicans Las Vegas. Once more, we had plenty of grass for our fatigued animals, and we determined to rest here.
John C. Fremont, on a scouting mission for the U.S. government, came here in May of 1844 and created the first map to include Las Vegas. His journey would be fateful. Just 2 years after Fremont's expedition, the United States declared war on Mexico and seized almost all of the present-day Southwest, bringing an end to the Old Spanish Trail. But Las Vegas would continue to be an important junction for another group just arriving to the Southwest. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, also known as the Mormons, arrived in present-day Salt Lake City in the summer of 1847. They settled San Bernardino, California in 1851, with the Mormon Road providing the link between these two towns. To better aid travelers along this route and to spread their faith among local Paiutes, the church called 30 men to establish a mission in Las Vegas. After a 30-day journey from Salt Lake City by wagon, the men and their leader, William Bringhurst, arrived on June 14, 1855. Construction of an adobe fort took 7 months. At its completion, it stood 150 feet square and would have been the largest building for at least 100 miles. Life here was tough and characterized by constant work. The missionaries spent much of their time farming, making adobe bricks, or in meetings. In the spring of 1856, however, lead was discovered nearby at Mount Potosi. A second group of 30 men arrived to mine this valuable resource. Challenges plagued the mining project, and a leadership struggle sapped the group morale. To add to their problems, the harsh environment made farming difficult, and the arrival of more men stretched their limited resources. The clearing of mesquite trees along the creek for fencing eliminated a key source of food for the native Paiutes, and tensions soon developed between the two cultures. Recognizing these issues, church president Brigham Young decided to release the men from their mission.
It would appear you cannot sustain yourselves, and consequently this station becomes an expense to the kingdom, and at present seems not to add any honey to the hive.
The fort was abandoned on March 23, 1857, and soon fell into disrepair. The missionaries had arrived in Las Vegas with grand dreams for the valley, and though their settlement did not go as anticipated, they left an important legacy by laying a foundation for future inhabitants. One such person was Octavius Decatur Gass. Gass was born in Ohio in 1828 and moved west as an adult in search of mineral wealth. After a couple failed ventures in California, Gass passed through Las Vegas in 1864 and quickly fell in love with the site. He repurposed the ruins of the old fort and would go on to run the Las Vegas Rancho for over 15 years, supplying goods to nearby miners and passing travelers. An Arizona newspaper described Gass as a man of quick wit and more than usual intelligence. Those skills would serve him well here. From the waters of the creek, Gass transformed dry desert into fields of wheat and barley, orchards with apple, apricots, and peach trees, and vineyards for making wine. He learned the Paiute language and employed many Paiutes on his extensive ranch. Like many before him, though, Gass's dreams of a larger Las Vegas would go unrealized and still lay a few decades in the future. The valley was still just a handful of ranches, and his growing family needed schooling. Unable to find a buyer, Gass borrowed $5,000 from rancher Archibald Stewart in Pioche, Nevada, and put his Las Vegas ranch up as collateral. Many believe that he never intended to pay back the loan. Stewart seized control of the ranch in 1881, and Gass moved back to California, still in search of fortune. They were only supposed to stay for 2 years. Archibald promised his wife Helen that their time in remote Las Vegas would only be a brief diversion before returning to civilized Pioche. He would never get the chance to keep his word. Following a business dispute in 1884, Archibald was killed in a gunfight at the Kyle Ranch just 2 miles to the north.
I write to you in great distress of mind. I am left alone here, and my little children fatherless, by the hand of a murderer.
Helen's situation was bleak. She had 4 children and was pregnant with a 5th. She lived in a remote part of southern Nevada and had no experience running a ranch. Despite all these obstacles, Helen was determined to succeed. She would go on to run the Las Vegas ranch for almost 20 years and eventually became one of the largest landowners in southern Nevada. Buying up almost all of the water rights in the Las Vegas Valley, her ranch was the centerpiece of the area. Helen was a sharp businesswoman and sensed that big changes were coming to southern Nevada. In 1902, she would sell this property and almost 2,000 other acres to the San Pedro, Los Angeles, and Salt Lake Railroad for $55,000. With the arrival of the railroad came a huge influx of people and goods, and a land auction in 1905 at Main and Fremont Streets marked the beginning of the Las Vegas we know today. Helen remained very involved in the budding city, becoming the first woman to serve on the Clark County School Board and the first woman to serve on a jury. For her resolve, strength, and perseverance, Helen is known today as the First Lady of Las Vegas, a title more than earned through her enormous impact on southern Nevada. Following the sale of the ranch to the railroads, the center of Las Vegas shifted to present-day downtown. Various people, including a Hollywood director, leased the property and continued ranching operations. Portions of the ranch were eventually turned into a resort. The creek was dammed to create a swimming pool, and both visitors and locals alike would escape the city to find shade and relaxation just north of town. The old fort was not finished, however, playing a pivotal role in Nevada's history. The construction of Boulder, now Hoover Dam, in the early 1930s was an engineering project on a scale never attempted. It would bring a reliable source of water and power to the desert Southwest. But the Bureau of Reclamation first needed somewhere to test concrete. They leased the Adobe building in 1929 and opened a testing laboratory. A variety of mixtures were created, and after a 28-day curing period, the strongest were sent to the Colorado River for production. After the Bureau of Reclamation departed in 1932, the old fort returned to its ranching past. The Daughters of Utah Pioneers leased the Adobe fort and worked tirelessly to preserve and maintain it. The Friends of the Fort organization was created in 1983 and lobbied successfully for state protection of the site. The state of Nevada purchased this land in 1991 and soon opened this park at the birthplace of Las Vegas. Today, visitors to the old Las Vegas Mormon Fort can discover a window into the past. The Adobe building is the oldest standing structure in the state, with portions of the original 1855 fort and remnants of everyone who followed. 3 acres of grounds provide a historic oasis in the middle of a modern city and lasting monument to all who battled a harsh environment to survive here. As you explore the site, take time to imagine the not-so-distant past, when a small creek was all that existed to nurture the dreams of a city no one could have anticipated.